with the Baltimore Ravens and this team who has been told about with one of the best draft classes they've ever had, and with all these interesting trades with receivers with Marquise Brown, a lot of questions are brewing about the Ravens. What are the Ravens' offensive schemes going to be? Are they going to be just running the ball from now on? Are they going to find some receivers in the off season before the season even starts to find that Lamar could really match up well with, or are they just going to focus on the run? How many games are going to win? Are they going to win the division once again, like they did a few years ago? And how is that defense going to hold up on them? And the last thing is, are they going to stay healthy? There's a lot of things to really question about the Baltimore Ravens this year. And I think a lot of teams are very I think just like with the Chiefs, I think a lot of teams have now figured out how to beat the Ravens. They're still going to be a tough team to really beat, uh, but at the same time, I think a lot of teams now kind of caught up to them scheme wise in terms of offense and defense. So this is going to be an interesting season for the Ravens, and I kind of am excited to see what's intrigued of what might come out of it. So let's take a look at the Baltimore Ravens as the last team to review for the AFC North division. So let's take a look at their schedule. So week one, the Baltimore Ravens go to New Jersey to play the New York Jets at MetLife Stadium. I mentioned it in my Jets preview before. This is kind of considered as a trap game because of the Jets and what they did in the offseason. They have improved some in terms of their defense and run defense. It's going to make some things very difficult for the Ravens. I think the Ravens are going to struggle early on in the season, but I'm going to give the edge to the Ravens to win in a close, low scoring affair with the Jets. I think the Ravens with Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh, I think they're just better than Robert Saleh as their coach, as the Jets coach, and I think they can outplay. I think this Ravens defense has a lot more depth than it did a year ago, and I think that's still going to give Zach Wilson some issues in terms of how he's going to play against good defenses like the Ravens. So I think the Ravens do have the edge here, and that's going to make some things difficult for the Jets in trying to beat them. But would it shock me if the Jets did beat the Ravens? Surprisingly, no, it really wouldn't. I could see the Jets winning this game. But I think with someone like Lamar and a coach like Harbaugh, I think you kind of have to go with the Ravens in this one. It's a tough game to decide, but I think the Ravens do sneak out a close, low scoring win against the Jets. And then in week two, you got the Miami Dolphins going up to Baltimore to play the Ravens. I think the Dolphins are going to win yet again against the Ravens like they did a year ago. As mentioned before, the Ravens are going to struggle in terms of figuring out what their offense is going to be like. Are they going to be able to do anything without Marquise Brown and some of those receivers and Sammy Watkins? They don't have there anymore either. So who is Lamar going to throw the ball to? I think this Dolphins defense is pretty good. They have a good secondary, and I think it's going to give Lamar some problems in terms of how he uses his offensive scheme. So I think the Dolphins do beat the Ravens in Baltimore in week two. Then this is another intriguing matchup because then you have the Ravens going to New England to play the New England Patriots. The last time these two teams played, the Patriots did beat the Ravens surprisingly on a Sunday night game, but they had Cam Newton play. And back then, when they did play, which was 2 seasons ago, the Ravens secondary was either hot or cold. They were hit or miss a lot of times. But I think this Ravens defense has improved some. But I do think that Mac Jones early on, because of Lamar's issues with trying to get together like the best team that he can with his receivers in the passing game, I think the Patriots do find a way to beat Harbaugh in a close game and possibly a low scoring game for this one. I think New England has the better. I think New England has the slightly better coach that's going to probably do just enough to be able to beat the Ravens in a low scoring game. So I'm going to take the Patriots to win in week three. Then week four, the Buffalo Bills, they go to play in Baltimore. I think the Bills do win this game. It's been I do think the Bills right now are one of the best teams, if not the best team in the AFC or even in the league. And I think with Josh Allen and his incredible strengths in running with the football and being able to scramble outside of the pocket and finding a wide open receiver, I think he's going to give the Ravens. I think out of the AFC East, I think he gives the Ravens the most challenges in terms of when passing the ball. And I think Lamar's going to do. I think Lamar can have a good game in this one in terms of being able to run with the football. And I think like J.K. Dobbins and some of those other running backs that the Ravens do have can have a good game against this Bills defense, but their struggles are mostly going to come early in the season based on the receiving end. So I think the Bills do what they can to beat the Ravens, and pretty convincingly, in my opinion. I think they're just outmatched. And then in week 5, you got the Cincinnati Bengals going to the Baltimore Ravens. I talked about in my Bengals team, I think Bengals video, excuse me. I think the Bengals right now are a better team on paper. And I do see the Bengals splitting with the Ravens this year. So I think the Bengals do win in the Sunday night matchup. I think the Bengals are ready for prime time. I think they've got a lot of juice on both sides of the football. And I think that's going to be tough for the Ravens to be able to figure out. So I think the Ravens are still going to struggle at that point. So I'm going to take the Ravens to win that one. Excuse me, the Bengals. Then week 6, we have the Ravens are going back up to New Jersey to play the New York Giants. Now the New York Giants did have a good draft class in terms of fixing all the problems that they really needed to fix for a very long time in terms of the offensive line. But I think the Ravens are still a better overall team and I think Harbaugh is also a better coach than Brian Dable, which we'll talk more about when we get to the Giants. I'm not sure what the Giants are going to be like, even with all those good draft picks that they got. I still think the Ravens are still going to beat the Giants in MetLife. I think they're just a better team, better coached team. It's just, I think they're just a better team right now. So I'm going to take the Ravens to win that game. Then week 7, you've got the Cleveland Browns at the Baltimore Ravens. This is another team that's going to give Lamar Jackson some problems this year, I believe. I think they're going to split some this year. I think the Browns and the Ravens are going to split yet again like they did a year ago. Therefore, I'm going to take the Ravens to win the first matchup against the Browns, though, because of all the unknowns about Deshaun Watson and if he's going to be playing in this game makes things a little difficult to really figure out what this Browns team is going to be like. So I think the Ravens are going to beat the Browns at least once this year, and I think it's going to happen in Baltimore. Then in week 8, this is a really interesting Thursday night game, and I think Thursday night football has some of its best matchups that they had in a really long time. So that's kind of really good to really see it from Thursday night football. You've got the Baltimore Ravens going down to Florida to play Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The last time Brady and Jackson met, it was not a very pretty game. And that was when Tom Brady was with the Patriots still at that time, and that was in his last season. It was not very pretty for Tom Brady against John Harbaugh's defense. This is still, I think I could see this game really going either way. I think the running abilities with Lamar Jackson, because normally any Tom Brady team always struggles against a running quarterback, is going to make some things difficult for the Bucs this year because I just think that the Ravens can figure out Tom Brady's scheme and what he likes to do. And I think the secondary of the Ravens is going to give Tom Brady some difficulty in trying to pass the ball, which I'm really excited to see about how this Ravens secondary is going to improve from a year ago. But I could see this game going either way, though. It's a tough one because I think the Ravens, if the Ravens can use Lamar effectively, and if Lamar is able to do all the things that he likes to do, he likes to run with the ball. He likes to be outside of the pocket when he's passing the ball. If the Buccaneers secondary and their defense gives Lamar all the time in the world to do all the tricks that he likes to do, I can see the Ravens winning this game. However, if the Buccaneers can play defense and Tom Brady has a really good game against the Ravens secondary and they sell out the Ravens defense, I could see the Buccaneers winning that game. So it's going to be a really good matchup between both teams because I could see either team winning this game. But I think because of the quarterback, because I think Tom Brady's got all the receivers that he needs, I think the Buccaneers win on Thursday Night Football against the Ravens. Then in week 9, you've got the Ravens are going to New Orleans to play the Saints. The Saints are a very sneaky team this year. I don't know what other way to really say it. They're a sneaky, good team. They can pull their way into the playoffs, I believe, with the roster that they do have. I think one of the biggest things for the Saints is their quarterback playing Jameis Winston. And I think that's what the Ravens have to take advantage of with Jameis Winston. And I think that the coaching staff, if you are a Saints coach, you would think that you would want to limit the amount of mistakes that Jameis may make with this defense. I think the Ravens can find a way to beat the Saints in this matchup on Monday Night Football because I think this Ravens secondary can give Jameis Winston difficulty because I think if they can get to the line, if they can get to Jameis Winston and put him under pressure, Jameis Winston will throw the ball in any direction possible, and he will throw to the defenders. So I don't know if I just don't see Jameis Winston doing good under pressure with this team. So I think the Ravens can find a way to sneak away with this game against the Saints. So then you're heading into the bye week in week 10, and you've got a 4-5 record, which is certainly where you don't want to be if you are a Ravens fan or part of their organization. But then you take a look at the rest of their schedule, and really they don't have that many teams that they really need to worry about besides the Broncos, the Steelers, and the Browns and the Bengals. Some of these games that they do have are pretty winnable for the Ravens. Like, for example, you take a look at week 11, you got the Carolina Panthers, and they're going to Baltimore. I could see the Ravens winning that game because I just don't know if I have enough trust in Sam Darnold and the Carolina Panthers to be able to pull out a win against the Ravens. I think the defense of the Panthers is decent. I think they can be underrated, but I think Lamar can find ways to be able to beat them. And I think at this point in the season, I think the Ravens might be able to figure out a way to be able to win some games with what he's got in the passing game. So I don't know. I think the Ravens do have a chance to beat some of these teams here. And I think the Panthers are one of them. Week 12 in Jacksonville against the Jaguars. I see the Ravens winning that. I don't think the Jags are good at all. They didn't do anything really to help out Trevor Lawrence in the draft. I just don't know what's going on. That whole team is a mess right now. So I'm going to give that edge to the Ravens to win that one. And then you look into week 13, you got the Broncos. This is a really intriguing matchup too, because now you've got two running quarterbacks with Lamar, and then you've got Russell Wilson on the other side waiting to run around. Last year, I think the Broncos had the ability, and I think they had enough talent on their roster that could have beaten the Ravens. The biggest problem for them last year for the Broncos was their quarterback. And now that they have a franchise-looking quarterback in Russell Wilson and some of that talent that they do have on offense with the Javonte Williams, Jerry Jeudy, and Cortland Sutton, and all those all those offensive guys, I think the Broncos have a good chance to beat the Ravens in week 13 because I think with Russell Wilson, I think Russell Wilson makes a difference for this Broncos offense to score some points. And I think that Denver defense is good, and I think they might be able to contain Lamar too. They didn't do a good job with containing Lamar at all last year, but I think their defense has improved some, and I think they're going to give the Ravens some little bit of some troubles in running the ball. So I think the Broncos can find a way to beat the Ravens in week 13. That would be something really special if you are a Ravens fan. Then week 14, you go to Heinz Field and you play the Pittsburgh Steelers. No matter where this game is played, no matter if it's in Heinz Field or it's in Baltimore, the Ravens and the Steelers are always great games. They're always very close, very low scoring, and it always comes down to the wire. I think I can really see the Ravens splitting this year with the Steelers. I think the Steelers do win the first matchup, and then I think the Ravens can win the second matchup in week 17. I think because of all the questions, I think both teams are very mediocre at best right now. But I also do believe, though, that I do think the Ravens do have a better quarterback, and I think they do have. I don't want to say they have a slightly better defense because I think both defenses are very similar to one another, and I just don't know. I can see this going. I can see this going either way. I can definitely see the Steelers sweeping the Ravens again, or I could see the Ravens sweeping the Steelers. I could see either one of these teams sweeping each other, but as of right now, I don't see that happening. And I think they do split. I think the Steelers do win in week 14 and the Ravens will win in week 17. Then week 15, we got the Ravens at the Browns. I think at this point with Deshaun Watson, I think the Browns should win this game, their second matchup. I just think that the Browns are at that point in time. I think they'll be a better team. They have some good weapons to really that they'll be very scary for the Ravens defense to maybe try and stop. I think they're going to have some difficulty in stopping the run with the Browns as well. So I'm going to take the Browns to win in Week 15. So that's another team that the Ravens will split with this year. Then Week 16, they got the Atlanta Falcons at home on a Saturday. I believe this is Christmas Eve, and it is. I'm going with the Ravens again. I've talked about it. We'll talk more about it with the Falcons when I get to their video. I don't think the Falcons are a very good team this year, besides Kyle Pitts, Cordell Patterson, and that's probably it. And I don't even see Calvin Ridley even coming back for this season again. So it's difficult for them, but I do think the Ravens are going to win that game. And then in week 18, now this is where like the playoffs is really going to hinder. I think the Bengals win in the last game of the season, and it's going to be very difficult for the Ravens to make it with an 8-9 record in the playoffs. So I can see them just making the playoffs or just missing the playoffs. I think one of the biggest things that they're going to have to really do is they're going to have to win more of these games if they want to make the playoffs. Like I said, I could see them beating New England on the road. I can definitely see them definitely being able to pull off an upset against Tom Brady and the Bucks, or I could see them being able to beat the Broncos at home. So all of those things really come into factor. But right now, I have the Ravens at 8-9. I don't think they're a terrible team, but I don't know if this draft class where everyone's rating them as like the greatest draft class of this year, they didn't do anything really to help Lamar out in terms of the receiver end. So it makes me kind of wonder how this team's going to pan out without some of the number one receivers that Lamar has had since he's been there. So I can see this team being 8-9 yet again, but I think the highest that I can see this team being is 10-7. I think that's just the highest that this team can be, just because of those issues that they're going to have on that offensive side of the football. I think the biggest thing for the Ravens that has improved was their defense. Their defense has been hit or miss pretty much the last 2 years. And I think they really needed to improve and add more depth in their defense. And I think they did that well. I think the offensive side of the football is where they're going to struggle more, specifically more in the passing game. So 8-9 is what I have the Ravens being at right now. So let me know in the comments down below. Let me know what you guys think. If you think they're going to, do you think they're going to win more games? Do you think they're going to be better? Do you think they'll be worse than last year? Just let me know in the comments down below. And then when we get to the next AFC teams, we will be doing the AFC South teams. So that'll be an interesting division to be talking about and seeing how those teams do for this year. So hope you all stick around for that, and thanks for watching.